Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being down to do a podcast real quick and talk about this whole retreat that we have been working on and are planning on putting together in October. Finally locked in the dates, locked in your flight. It's looking like it's going to be October 11th through the 14th
Mhm.
and here in Austin. And we're just super excited to do it with you and wanted to put together this call and both get to know you a little bit better, but also share the retreat and the message and the vision and this whole epic experience that we got going on.
Mm. So excited. So excited. I've been feeling like called to Austin for a long time. So I feel like it's coming out. It's happening. So super excited to meet the community and share this work and resin and making art and the power and creativity and play. So yeah. So here for deep diving.
Yeah. So I think maybe just to start off, you could share a little bit about the art itself, the crystal resin art, because I know a lot of people that are going to be listening to this maybe have seen a photo or a video, but maybe they haven't seen anything on the art. So if you could just break down what the art is, as well as kind of how you came across it and where you started to create this whole ceremonial process within the art.
Yeah, so many aspects to this. Um, to backtrack into where it really started to spark through was actually when I was pregnant, and I was in a really hard relationship at the time. And it was really bringing out all these aspects of myself. You know, pregnant women are full of hormones. We're like emotional and feeling all the things. And there was just this like this obvious life force, but also like forcing me into all of the corners of myself that I felt like I was very restricted in and limited in. And I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but um, you know, as a woman, and especially in our society right now, there's a particular way that you operate to kind of fit in. There's a desire and like a craving for belonging, for being part of the tribe. And I feel like I have kind of limited myself so much to try and fit in. And really, what I started to like get when I spent this time with my partner and I was pregnant and all of this energy was just coming out of me. I was like, I realized there's so many parts of myself that I haven't fully expressed. And I spent my pregnancy just so obsessed with art, this particular form of art. I saw a video some one day and I was scrolling through and I was like, this is so cool. I've never seen anything like this. And it just set me off on this like complete obsession for basically 9 months of me going in and just like allowing myself the space to drop into my creativity, to drop into like exploring all these parts of myself. And the more I gave myself permission, the more unfolded, and I started to surprise myself with what I was capable of. And I had grown up in school of kind of being fitting into the class, but also like being an outsider. They labeled me with like ADHD and I was like fidgety and I couldn't sit still and I just like I wanted to like be a disruptor. I was kind of like the rebellious one in the class that teacher would be like telling me to shush all the time. And I was like, no, but I've got all these ideas. And so I went on this process of just exploring how to find my form of art and find the way that I wanted to express myself through like what lens of art that came in, right? Because I was never like a traditional painter. I was never someone that would be like, draw the apple. I hated drawing the fucking apple. Sorry to swear, but like I didn't fit the idea of what I thought an artist was, even though there was so much creativity coming out of me in so many ways. Like I was putting it into cooking and I was putting it into like designing my bedroom and like the interiors of homes and all that kind of stuff. But it was like there was something else that was there and I just wanted to extrapolate more. And so I spent my pregnancy like totally deep diving into this, like playing with resin. And because of the chemicals in resin, I didn't want to like start using it until my baby was born and I could, you know, put her in another space and I could just have my private time and really just be in that, be in the curiosity of that. And so she was born, and at the time, I got a big chunk of money, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna invest this into myself. And I fully got all the equipment and set up an art studio, and it was kind of like my safe haven away from my relationship at the time. And I stepped into this little space, and it was just so many lessons were coming through as I was creating. And I started to really set it up like this is my safe space, this is my sacred time. And at the time, I was also in this like deep spiritual journey of like kind of exploring like what my belief systems are, like how I feel about God, how I feel about like religion, how does this make sense? And I've grown up in a Christian background, and I have spent my life like I lived in a yoga retreat for 2 years. I kind of went into like Hare Krishna practices just like super casually, but I was very curious as to like what truth was, what the answers were, and there were such big questions. And I feel like it's a lifelong journey for sure, but I definitely got to a place where I I've kind of like feeling like asking myself and like having my own connection to God, to creation. And the more that I really reclaimed that power to explore all of my emotional um I guess expressions and how I can bring that through and turn it into something beautiful, it really helped me to welcome and to feel just like learn how to love these aspects of myself, because I could see myself literally transmuting and turning what like I was the crazy outcast ADHD girl, and my parents were like threatening me to put me in a psych ward because they didn't know how to navigate like the extremities and the spectrum that I was able to let go. But that was all their projections because they couldn't deal with like their own emotions, right? So we all have our own version of the story where like people haven't welcomed certain aspects of ourselves, so we've felt like we've shut them down or disconnected from them so that we can be more accommodating to other people. Anyway, long story short, I set up my art studio. I started to play with art. I started to set it in this containment of this is a special sacred time for me to just explore myself. And what I really lent into was breaking down all of the ways in which I had taught or been taught or like contain myself from um, being with the art no matter what happened to it. And yeah, there's a few stories in there which I could share more about, like um, the very first piece of art that I really played with resin. And I got all the equipment, I'd done all the learning on YouTube, like I'd done all the like short courses, and I mixed the resin consistency wrong. Obviously, it's your first time, so this is where guidance comes in really handy. But actually, something really super magical came into this, and I mixed the wrong portions of the resin. And so it didn't set right. And I was like, man, I screwed it up, but whatever. Okay. And I put some plastic on it and I just like shoved it into the corner of like my storage. And I didn't look at it for 6 months, and I just went on with other work. And I got a massive lesson in this because when I moved studios later on and I got this piece of art out again and I took the plastic off the top, and I saw it had left this like ripply effect because it hadn't hardened properly, and the plastic being on top of it and then stuff being on top of it kind of squished it, but it like had this ripply effect like it was on the bottom of the ocean. And when I peeled the plastic off, I was like, wait, this is actually super cool, like how could I get this to set? So I started to think like how I could kind of turn it around, and I poured another like resin layer on top, and it set this like ripply effect with another like it solidified it and it held it in, and then I put like crystals and shells on it. And that was kind of the the first time where I realized like how we think we're trying to do something in a particular way, and when we go into something trying to control it and trying to like direct it in a particular way, we're blocking off all of the other ways in which life and creative expression wants to. It's almost like create something beyond what we know. And I think this is where like happy accidents are such important things to be aware of, our own willingness to fail and then be curious as to what can come from it. And I started to realize like that I ended up moving on and like selling that piece. And it was the biggest piece of work that I had sold for the highest profit at the time. And I was just like, it really changed something in me where um I was just more willing to make mistakes and to not be so attached to trying to control everything. And like my art started to have these profound changes in experiencing life. And so yeah, art became healing for me. It became therapy for me. It became a way where I could bring any emotion to it and then almost see a direct reflection of myself in my art. So yeah, there's so many things that I'm so passionate about, and I've kind of gone on to like teach my own students and take people through these processes that I intuitively kind of discovered through just curiosity and experimentation. So yeah.
Yeah. The first time you told this part of that story where you were telling me about your first piece and how it was like, oh, this like catastrophe, and you're just like, oh, you were so excited, you gathered all your materials, you've been thinking about it, you've been thinking about it, you had this grand plan, and you went to do it, and it was just like it felt all wrong, and you felt like you failed, quotation mark failed, and came back to it. And I remember when you told this story, you wrapped it up with this beautiful bow of just the lessons in life. It was like this beautiful philosophical thing for you where you saw that like when you're in the lessons, when you're going through it, sometimes we think we're failing, sometimes we think we're stuck, but really it's like creating something so much bigger, and you don't get to see that until you're like at that other point. You don't get to see it till you're like in the end of the lesson and you've like learned the lesson and you see it in retrospect. And I think that was the thing to me where I was just like, wow, like I can see like the ceremony around that and like kind of releasing and like letting it take its own shape. So I think that was like really important to hear that again, and for other people to hear as well, and just like the birthing of this concept for you and this art. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited that
Yeah.
you shared that.
It's so true because within like for our ability to surrender, for our ability to trust our creative process, we have to trust ourselves. Like
Mm.
our relationships are all stemmed and all reflected and mirrored from our experience with ourselves. So the more I was willing to make a mistake, it was the follow through was trusting myself. Like how can I turn this around? Or how can I learn to love that this is just an aspect of myself. This is a reflection of what is inside of me. And it helped me to love all these different aspects of myself that I was so judgmental of, that I would shame, that I would shut down, that I yeah, that I wouldn't fully like welcome in. So I think that when people I've had so many people be like, but Maria, I'm not an artist. I don't really stand by that. I feel like innately, as human beings, we are creative, we are creators, and we do create our life. And so, welcoming in this like archetype of artistry allows us to make mistakes and to be experimental and to be curious and to be playful and um, constantly be evolving. Like it doesn't stop at one stage. We just keep like we learn and we improve. And it is, yeah, that's just part of my philosophy now. What I am so passionate about sharing with other people is to remove these layers of like perfection and what we think is the right thing to do, um, in terms of, creating art and creating our life as well. It's such a big it's just an expanded version of our own art pieces, which is ultimately what I create the art for. It's to hold a sacred point, an anchor point, an intention of what we are creating in our life. And so being in this moment and having such a significant moment, we're investing time, we're investing money, we're investing our presence. It really helps us to get clear on like what am I actually creating, like what is my vision, because a lot of people are out there in the world and they are working towards this like this great grand plan, but it's murky and it's foggy, and without any clarity it's like we're shooting ourselves in too many directions all at once, and it's like it's what's the word? It's not distilling, sorry. It's like it's diluting. It's diluting our power. But when we focus ourselves in, we use something like creating art, for example, is what we do in the retreat. When we use the art as a point of focus and reflection and presence and allow ourselves to vision in, to dream in, and to actually choose, because the choosing is such an important part. We can choose now and we can always pivot in the future. But if we don't choose, we're not going anywhere other than what can be like through our subconscious programming, which is a lot of people are just going around and around in circles in life. They're just bouncing off like problem to problem without actually guiding our path anywhere in particular. So choosing where we're going, knowing that we can re-choose in any time, but the choosing is so important. So we choose in the art piece. And we like with every crystal, the process that I take people through is like every crystal is choosing this part of my life. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing this. I am this person. This is where I see myself going. This is my vision. This is what I'm committed to. And it helps us really build this like depth of integrity and trusting ourselves and knowing that even in the choosing, like we can change our mind at any time. We're not trapped to it, but it helps us to really practice this experience of like, I commit to this. I go this way. This is, like I'm guiding myself, I'm taking myself there. And you could experience or explain this as like a masculine energy. It's the direction, it's the penetrative, it's the like momentum forward. And then the feminine gets to play in that. She gets to like wield and be with the fluidity of the rhythm. She gets to guide and kind of like watch the organic nature of these materials start unfolding. And it's so much fun to play with because you can have a certain level of controlling where materials are going, but ultimately it does its own thing. And so this is where the surrender piece comes in because you really have to surrender to the outcome. You have to surrender to loving the piece in its entirety. And all of the, we're going to have stories that come up. It's human nature to have these like little, these bubbles of awareness kind of popping up as we experiencing the piece. And it's in that we have the awareness of them. So the art piece itself gives us the opportunity to see where we are limiting ourselves in the art, but also limiting ourselves in life and limiting our own love to ourselves. So it's multi-layered, multifaceted, and it's fun. It's so fun and it's so beautiful, and it gets to be on your wall, and it's so luxe. And
Mm.
I really don't feel like anyone can mess it up. Like as long as we can get the principles of how to work with the materials, it's just like I got you on that end, and then you get to play. So I get to be the parent, you can be the kid.
Yeah. I love that you use the word luxe. That's like the perfect way to describe it. When we first saw the piece on Lola's wall, we were just like, it was stunning, you know? And then when you started sharing other pieces you worked on, I'm like, wow, like imagine like having this on your wall. It's one of those things that people come in and they're like, they want to ask a question about it. Cause I know everybody that came into her house that night asked her a question about it, and it's one of those things that you get to share a really deep story about yourself, like visually, but like you get to have that like inside represented on the wall, and it's stunning, it's beautiful, people are drawn to it. So I really appreciate the use of that word and the description of it. So I
And
think
and I feel like just it's magical, like
Mhm.
to to create your own art, like your own soul art, essentially, with a group of people. Um, like living in Austin, there's so many different events and so many different retreats happening every single weekend to where, in a way, it's almost like
For
oversaturated.
sure.
Um, and like there's no shortage of yoga retreats, plant medicine retreats, different types of movement retreats. But I personally have never seen an art retreat like this, and one where you get to actually like leave with something tangible, something physical that gets to stay with you for the rest of your life. And that can like serve as a reminder for the experience that you had, the people that you're with, the connections that were made, the lessons about yourself that you got to experience through creating art that can just serve as that reminder every single time that you look at it. And yeah, I'm just so excited because it's something that I haven't seen done before, especially here in Austin. And with the events that we host, they're always focused on like some sort of novelty, some sort of play, something new, while also tapping into this nostalgic sense of like home and family. And I just feel so blessed and grateful that we get to fly you in from New Zealand to the States and co-create something super special that really just like hasn't been done here before yet.
Yeah, just to
Yeah.
speak to that. Oh, sorry.
I was
We,
gonna say the art in itself as well. It get like we give it so much meaning. It gets to be really sentimental. People can write poems or letters to their children or letters to like on the actual base of it. This is kind of like another layer that I add in is like on the base of it, you can write your own poem. You can write your own like intention or something that kind of it encodes it as well. So it adds the meaning to it, and it can be something that you can hand down to your kids, right? It's like an essence or a bookmark of a part of your life, a chapter of your life of where you were at, and it lasts. So it's just really, yeah, it's really special.
yeah, I love what Cam was saying though about like the bringing it home and like our sense of play too, because you're talking about how fun it is and how creative it is, and I think that was something that when we like rebirthed Lapicero from coming from just retreats into like events, we really worked hard on incorporating a lot of play into all of them, and not just like a physical element of play, but we were incorporating a lot of like art projects into our first socials. I would have like an art project which I felt like was a good space, a safe space for people that didn't necessarily know how to just drop into a conversation, say something profound, but it gave them an invitation to come in and like share a piece of themselves. There's a big art table. You can go just sit down and express yourself, and it gives you that ability to connect with somebody else. And it started from that, and it kind of evolved into doing like more immersive stuff, but it really did tie back into people coming to a space together and just like playing with each other like children, like brothers and sisters, like we all are, and we forget because we get so into the weeds about taking things so serious and, what we're supposed to be doing. Like you said, this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is how we're supposed to do it. When we were kids, we were just like messing around, building forts, like playing weird games that we were making up, the floor is lava, keep the balloon off the ground, So I think we just really want to drill into like creating an entire experience around that for the whole retreat. Of course, there will be like, meals together, which is very communal family style meals, but also just having different ways to unlock that natural trust and flow and play. So I think we're like on track as far as that. And it's very nostalgic for me. I mean, I grew up in a household where my mom was an art teacher and she owned an art studio. And every summer I would help her with her summer art camps. And we would take all the kids to like a farm, and it would be like a whole weekend of like doing different art projects on a farm together. And so to me, I'm like, it's just taking me back to childhood, but in a much more luxe and majestic way, because it's not just like a picture of a horse you're taking home. So
Mhm. Yeah, I love that so much. That's actually a dream of mine to set up like an art school slash healing center and to like bring people in, have retreats and yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love that.
he's one.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think maybe just circling off of that, we can just share some of the like the ideas for programming. I think as of right now, we're about 2 months out, a little under 60 days from the retreat, and I'm sure there's going to be a few more ideas as far as the programming goes, but I know um I guess first off, one of the first things that we're going to do, we're meeting on that Friday, and we plan on going together to Shiny Things for Shiny People, and as a group, getting any crystals that we need for the project that we haven't acquired before coming into the project at wholesale prices. Um,
Mhm.
but just going through this process of accumulating some of the materials together in a group, I think is super special. And I know you've done these retreats before, and I'm pretty sure you've done something similar like that, right?
Mhm. Mhm. We're gonna go hunt and gather.
Yeah. Um, And then you're a breathwork instructor, and I know that's something that you guide people through during a lot of these different retreats and events that you host. And I like moving my body. I've been slacklining and highlining for almost 10 years. And the space that we're hosting the retreat at, we can set up one line, and that's something that I want to share. Also DJ, and in some form want to share music, want to share dance. Casey's an incredible chef and just is really good when it comes to play and facilitating experiences and curating vibes. And I just know all of our superpowers coming together to curate and create an event is going to facilitate something super magical.
Yeah, it's gonna be so good. Um, yeah, I love the pieces. Like before we get into the art, for me, like I said at the beginning, it was about kind of like breaking out of the mold. So the unhinging process is actually really important, is to allow us to kind of like play in the spectrum of our creativity and to kind of break down the identity and the way that we have experienced our creativity. So I love the idea of like definitely doing some movement, doing some breath work, and um dropping in to be able to really connect with our power as a creator, which is ultimately guiding like both all of us can be a part of this process of like helping people to drop deeper and deeper and deeper into the essence of who they are, which is like really connecting with their own heart and their own love. And from that place of love, it really opens us up to be less restricted in our ability to just like be with the process. It opens up like the the layers that we have around it. I see going through the embodiment process, the breath work and the dance and the movement and just the connection that we cultivate as a group helps us to like kind of stretch out the layers around our heart. And it's a tender space, it's a vulnerable space, but it allows us to journey through the art at a very, very deep way, in a deep way. And that's why creating the art while we are deeply immersed in the experience, it allows us to really connect to the true nature of who we are and without being unencumbered with all of the weight that we can carry around in the world by being around people and being in like, the day to day, the family stuff, like that can feel like heavy at times or stressful at times. It's just like this gets to be pure joy. This gets to be an opportunity for you to really like be in the absolute joy, which is why I always kind of refer to like it being like a childlike process. We get to be in our childlike spirit and to be in that constant joy, which is our natural state. So yeah, super excited about this whole thing and to be collaborating with you guys and to be coming to Austin and yeah, we'll go and pick out our crystals on the Friday. There'll be a little bit of a process around that. I'll guide people into just a little bit of an activation, and then yeah, we will do 2 days of 2 different pours. So we set the foundations. Before that, sorry, we'll do like the embodiment stuff, the kind of more cathartic stuff, and then we'll drop into our first layer of pour that evening, and then the next layer will be the next day after the first layer is dried. So yeah, there's 2 opportunities to really be with the materials for you to learn in your own time how to use the materials. Everyone can ask me as many questions as they like. I've been doing this for years. And then you'll have these skills that you can go and do your own process like this at home. You can make your own big pieces of art. You can upcycle furniture with it. You can, like, there's so many value points through the process. So that's ultimately what I love doing, is like helping people activate into, more of their own ability to heal themselves, create, and just experience joy in who they are. So, yeah.
I love that. I love that you expanded on that. They're not just creating an art piece, they're also creating the ability to like trust themselves to keep creating from that art. So that's really, really cool. Do you have any recommendations for people that like want, oh, we might be running out of time soon. Okay. Do you have any recommendations for people that like want to maybe start procuring crystals beforehand, or, you know, kind of for them to like drop in and conceptualize it all? I know it was something that me and Cam started kind of playing with when we, you know, started talking about doing the retreat and started maybe collecting some crystals beforehand.
Yeah. Um, I guess crystals, yes, it can be awesome. I would definitely start to pick out pieces that are just in resonance, and this is where the trust comes in. Like, my recommendation is definitely not overthink anything. Like, don't get caught up in what wants to be, what it needs to look like, the colors, all the things. Like, yes,
That's where I got stuck first.
start feeling into the energy of it, and that's the most important thing, because this is going to be like an alive piece of its own. Like, crystals are a living material, which is why they can hold the charge of what we're creating with them. And so when we start to like overcomplicate it in our mind, we can, this is where the patterns start coming up, right? It's already begun, the process has already begun, because we've set our intention, we're creating this thing, and then that's when things start to surface. So in the process and the momentum and the build up into it actually happening, just observing all of this, that the energy that is coming from knowing that this is going to happen, because it's, yeah, just really beautiful awareness. So yeah.
Yeah. It was funny because I kind of was stuck in that bubble, and like Cam was picking out some really cool ones, and everything that he liked, I liked. And then I went back later to Shiny Things for Shiny People, and I saw this crystal inside of the case, and I was so drawn to it. And I asked Cam to come in. I was like, "Do you think you can pick it out?" And he couldn't find it. You couldn't see which one it was. And it was something that I would never just look at and say, "That's what I want in my piece," or "That's what I want my piece to look like." But it just sang to me. It was calling to me. I'm like, that has to be. And that is to me not the center of my piece, but it's like the soul of my piece. It feels like it's like, you know, I know there's going to be more crystals in there, but that to me was like the energy that wanted to come through. So yeah, it is funny how it kind of comes to you when you kind of like let go of the, you know, where am I gonna put it? What color should I pick to make it fit in that space? So
That's really what happens. You know,
yeah.
something will speak to you, and there's like a patience that we need to cultivate to have that moment. And it's when we fully let go and surrender to the process that it's like, oh, there's the thing. Oh my God, it makes sense now. And sometimes, like, if you're a bit of a control freak, it takes to the very last minute to actually get to that piece where we're like, we're at the stop, we've got 2 minutes to go. What am I gonna choose? Oh my God, okay, I surrender. Fuck. You know, like, it's like, ah.
There's a lot of procrastinators out there, so I can see that too, you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm excited
Yeah.
more than anything.
Mhm.
It's just becoming more and more real. Like, this was something, I think it was like 10 months ago that we saw Lola's piece. And then like just a few days after seeing her piece, I reached out to you, and we had 2 dates already that we were looking at for this retreat this year, and it just didn't line up. And this is the third, and third time's a charm, and we're doing it.
Mhm.
Got the space lined up, which feels really good.
Mhm.
Flight booked. That's like the biggest piece of momentum. Um, Limited spots, and just like it feels like there's gonna be, once we go live and share this, there's gonna be a lot of demand, um,
Mhm.
because what we're doing is something so unique, both with like the tangible piece of art that you get to take home with you that is luxe, that does feel high end, that you get to create yourself, um, but then the connections and the community and the whole experience itself. And I didn't even think about this, but you sharing that we get to walk away with not only the art piece, but the skill set to
Mhm.
continue to make them and also apply it to other aspects of art and creativity. It's just so special, and I'm so excited. And selfishly, like when I saw Lola's piece, like I wanted to do this retreat so I could make my own
Yeah,
piece.
for sure.
Um, and yeah, I'm just, I don't know if I can say that I'm excited enough, because I am.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
cool. I'm so grateful for like, yeah, yeah. It's so cool to really see value in the process and the practice. And yeah, I know that people are gonna have such an amazing experience. I'm really looking forward to being there, and yeah, just being with everybody.
Definitely. And I think just to play into like the synchronicity of like this is the time that it was supposed to happen is you were already in talks with one of your friends to be at the Solar Punk Summit, which is the following weekend after we were talking about the retreat, because we were looking at 2 dates in October. Um, and the dates that we lined up the following weekend, you're going to be doing something at Solar Punk Summit. I'm doing something at Solar Punk Summit, playing a set, teaching, slacklining. And it's just crazy that it all lined up this way and it truly feels meant to be. Um, so I think just in closing, uh, we're going to have, by the time that this podcast goes live, a landing page where people can book their spot for the retreat. We're going to have, I believe, 15 spots in total. So not many for what we're offering. And uh, yeah, I think if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to any of the three of us, and I'll link our Instagram handles in the bio for this podcast. Um, and we have a few options as far as like rooms go and price points, and the option to either stay on site, or if you're local to Austin, you just want to stay at home, there'll be a lower price point there. I'll just put that all on the landing page, and we can just answer questions. But more than anything, I'm just so grateful, Maria, that you've been patient with us and excited to work with us and still wanting to do this, and just trusting the timing of it all, and knowing that yeah, if it's meant to be, it shall be. And here we are, and it's happening. And yeah, once again, can't be more excited.
So good. Thank you guys so much again. Looking forward to it so much.
Yeah, can't wait to see you in person.
It's the best when like online friendships become like in person, when you're like, oh my God, the human.
Real life, the 3D.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. All right, we love you. We'll talk to you
Okay.
soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye. You're welcome. See you
Have a
later.
bit.